Hello everybody, it's me. This is a different kind of video. I'm going to start this before I actually get into what we're going to be reading with a little story so you understand what it is that's kind of going on. Recently I was reposted a story from another subreddit. I won't go into the name or anything like that because I tend to leave those names out, but looking into the actual story, I noticed it had been deleted. And when I went back to the actual original place it was posted before it got reposted, I found that there is several other things that this person, the original post, like the actual person who wrote it, not the person who reposted it, had shared on many different subreddits. And someone in the comments made a joke about looking at their comment history and how they are basically just trying to get confirmation bias from 500 different little subreddits. So what started as a story about a very strange coworker being very legbeardy actually turned into finding an entire account run by a very incel-like neckbeard with just a bunch of interesting little posts. I pulled some of my favorites. This is obviously not all of them, but some of these are very short, and some of them are very long, and I just want to make them into one video because I think this is pretty hilarious. So that's what we're going to do here. That's what this is. So allow me to read you stories from a neckbeard's Reddit account. This was posted to r/rant. Women who cut their hair short. That's the title. I've learned over the years that if you see a woman with short hair, or if your girlfriend suddenly chops off her hair, you need to run and run fast. Why do I say this? It has to do with selfishness and what will be cascading on her personal standards plummeting in terms of how she looks and in terms of her trying to look good for you. You will get the, well, it's easier for me to take care of excuse. Yes, sorry, not digging the 1980s Molly Ringwald look. Next, she will stop wearing makeup. See excuse number 1 above. They're not numbered. After the makeup, she'll probably gain weight and then still expect you to go down on her and completely unshaven stink forest and like it. You will get the shaming bullshit trap of, well, if you really loved me line. Funny thing is, after you break up with a girl like this, she will grow her hair, lose weight, and put on enough makeup for a kabuki actor and then run back to the regular waxings. But seriously, short hair equals an often angry feminist who will dare you to say you like long-haired, in-shape women who are not sporting Brillo crotch pads over her. Run. He wrote all that. I'm just letting you guys take that in for a minute. I also want to point out that the vast majority of the comments are stuff like, that's going to be a hard yikes from me, bro. So, yeah, this is the level we're talking about. This person also posts a lot of fake stories from what I've seen. There's 101 stories about how they're worried about their kids or their wife gaining weight specifically. This person has a hard bias against people who are not super thin, which I think is projection on his part. Because why else would you be so fucking obsessed with it if it wasn't a thing that you yourself somehow have a connection to? Which makes me think many things. What's that old saying? Methinks thou doth protest too much. So yes, that is the beginning. This is not the very first post. It's obviously not the last, but it was one of them that was just so interesting. This is some hardcore incel shit. I just want to keep, want you to keep that in mind. This person also vehemently demands that they are not, in fact, an incel while posting extremely incel things, so, Anyway, let's move on. We have another one. From r/dating advice, a question about the friend zone. That pause was intentional. I was just enjoy that. I am a married guy who's been out of the dating scene for a good 20 years. The social dynamics of dating have always fascinated me, and I'm really intrigued about today's friend zone. I know what the friend zone is. What I don't get, however, is why guys who aren't happy about getting friend zoned seem to be fair game for all kinds of online attacks. Did something change where unrequited love became something to be celebrated? Back when I was dating, if someone had romantic interest with you and you told them I just want to be friends, it was understood that this was your way of letting them down easily, and also that you probably would not remain friends. Getting rejected is painful. It seems kind of cruel to pile on punishment afterwards. If a guy describes that he doesn't want to be friends with the girl who friend zones him and just moves on, what is wrong with that? So there's this answer. First of all, the threads you've been posting in, begging for folks to explain the so-called friend zone to you, paint a different picture. It doesn't seem like you really understand it at all. Secondly, those guys are fair game because they're being incredibly stupid, and fail to take the simplest advice when it's given to them. No one is ever stuck in the friend zone. They stay in it by choice. I've told you this once, and I'll tell it to you again. You are under no obligation to be anyone's friend. If you feel someone is taking advantage of you, or even if there's an unrequited romantic/sexual feelings orbiting around them in hopes that they'll one day give it up and finally bang you, is horribly pathetic. There's nothing wrong with a guy who decides he doesn't want to be friends with a girl who rejects him. People have been telling you that the entire time. So, yeah, apparently he's been getting these answers on many different posts. And he has posted the exact same question about 12 different subreddits. The thing is that a lot of those posts have been deleted because of the subject matter. The mods will recognize that this is, in fact, someone fishing for attention and then remove it. So, let's move on to another, because I have several others. Here we go. Posted in true off my chest. I don't know what that is. I don't know what a lot of these subreddits are. Can we please stop calling men creepy? It feels like in the last 10 years, there are more and more women who use creepy as a catch-all phrase to describe any man that they don't like. I get that some men do creepy things, but other guys can't help how they look or if something about their looks or mannerisms happens to make you uncomfortable. This is your issue and not theirs. So long as they are not bothering you, then you really don't have the right to slander them to your girlfriends or co-workers as soon as they leave the room. Because of today's anti-male social climate, I go out of my way to be as non-threatening and neutral in my interactions with females at work. What I have noticed, however, is that if one of the awkward guys from IT says exactly the same thing I did to one of our female coworkers, like, "Good morning, Jessica," he gets massive shit talked about him because of how creepy he is. One girl said, "Ew, he makes my skin crawl." If a guy was following you around and blowing up your phone and waiting on your doorstep for you to get home from work, I would call any of those things creepy. Even more concerning was that one day our HR manager overheard one of these girls going on about the creepy rant and asked if she wanted the guy in IT to be talked to about how he makes her feel uncomfortable. The worst part about being a guy and getting called creepy is that it's hard to defend. How the hell are you supposed to prove that you're not creepy after a bunch of female office bullies say otherwise? There's also a very negative connotation with the word creepy in this day and age as it stirs up images of a peeping Tom or someone like Harvey Weinstein. The worst offender at my job who overuses the creepy tag is really overweight herself. Can you imagine the backlash if someone pointed out that she is fat? Women are not exactly innocent of not being creepy either. I've had a few run-ins with creepy females, from exes who stalk me to super possessive girlfriends that handcuffed me to a bed after I had fallen asleep. I had to tell her that I loved her and that there were no other woman for a good hour before she let me go. Let me put this to you girls in a way so that women can understand. Randomly calling a guy creepy or doing it when he has done nothing to you would be like a bunch of guys telling everyone else in the office that you are a slut. Now you will have the fun experiences of wondering who has heard this rumor, who believes it, and what the hell you can do to clear your own name. Understand? This is what I mean by these are true incel posts. A lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense. First off, saying hello to someone does not qualify you as being creepy. If someone looks different or looks a little strange, they might comment on that, but most of the time nobody gives a fuck. People are weird. That's a thing. Secondly, going specifically out of his way to create a fictional person from IT who they say is creepy, but he somehow knows all the details of this. This is like all those fake neckbeard stories that are like about someone's personal life, even though you've only known this person for 5 minutes. So there's no possible way that any of this is true. And Then there's the really obvious outliers. The need to essentially talk down to every woman who is reading this. The fact that they have to be called female specifically, but are okay saying men and not male. This story of a super possessive girlfriend, which has absolutely no merit in this whatsoever. It doesn't add to anything. This is a pointless bragging point. The fact that he had to go out of his way to call the meanest person, quote unquote, in the female office bullies, you couldn't see the air quotes with that one, has to specifically refer to her as fat. I mean, yeah, that does pretty much say everything, doesn't it? So, a lot of the people in the comment section actually specifically called him out on this, and they were just like, that's pretty stupid. I don't know why you would, this is obviously something that you have created in your head, trying to get confirmation bias so that you can feel better about how you don't like women, which is a thing that a lot of people with really negative mindsets do, so I'm not surprised that this is what he's doing. But we're not quite done. We still have 2 more posts. Let's move on. From r/unpopular opinion, we have this little gem. Single mothers should get more realistic when it comes to their high dating standards. When looking through personal dating ads, something that has really stood out to me over the past decade with the increasing demands of the single woman who has come back to the dating scene. It has become quite the laundry list of requirements and will go something like this. Quote, single mother, 29 years old, looking for tall, good-looking guy with solid job and his own place to treat my son like the queen and the prince we are. This guy needs to understand that my son comes first at all times and I am not a booty call. I need to be swept off my feet after a long day and reminded that I am worth his very best. Unquote. Let's be realistic. You're looking for a man to jump into a situation where he will never be your first priority and where you may just not have time for him. Something that does not get talked about when it comes to dating single mothers seems to be that their real responsibility is that she is the reason the relationship with the father did not work out and that she is the perfect princess in distress waiting to be rescued by her white knight. If you are a single woman with a kid and a decent guy is willing to date you, you should show some gratitude and think about what you are going to do to keep him around. Drop the bitchy demanding attitude. I'm going to put this out there and say, just right off the bat, this post has over 400 comments. But let's talk about what's wrong with it in the first place. First off, dating sites are pretty shit. Everybody knows that. Everyone who has ever used one, everyone who's ever been on one, everyone who's even so much as read something on any of them knows that they are pretty shit. Despite what they are. From Tinder to OkCupid to Match.com and Back It In. Back It In? Back Again. I'm going to create a dating site called Back It In. Anyway, they're all shit. Everybody knows this. It's a bunch of people stating things that they want without having to worry about, how this comes across in any other section. Mainly because, unlike something like Facebook, most of the time, your family and friends are not going to read this. You're trying to appeal to a stranger, so you're trying to put your best qualities out there. But let's put one specific thing that this guy actually said. He's really mad that this profile, and I use that air quotes yet again, because I don't really believe this is true, is stating certain specific things. First off, whenever somebody says that they are the queen and their son or daughter is the prince or princess, it's usually hyperbole. This is someone who's just basically saying that they are very important and want to be kind of treated that way, mainly because a family is very important to them and they want people to be treated, in a good manner. Some people take it too far. Yes, that is a thing. However, that's definitely not what most people are going for. But the thing that really sets this off is the fact that he's mad has to include the not a booty call. You're mad that you're not getting laid. Okay. And the fact that this fictional woman is saying that her son is her first priority and comes first. And his specific point on that is that, you will never be her first priorities. Yes, she has a child. A child does tend to come first. Mainly because you are a grown adult, and you have the ability to take care of yourself like a grown adult. If you are specifically trying to enter into a relationship to be someone's number one, only, absolute priority at all times, as in you need to be taken care of, you're not an adult, you're a child. No one needs that much attention. And if you feel like you do need that much attention, maybe you should talk to a professional, because that's really unhealthy. No one needs to be at your beck and call 24/7. Sometimes shit just doesn't work out. Okay? But this idea that you're getting mad at a literal child for having more attention from their literal mother says more about your personality than it does about anything to do with the females in the dating scene. But we have one more post, and it's a long one. So buckle in, kids. Here we go. From True Off My Chest, we have... Friend-zoning someone who has unrequited romantic feelings for you is nothing more than an act of selfishness. That's the title. You starting to see a pattern here? Also, I did kind of gloss over this, or maybe I just kind of ignored a certain part of it. But yes, this person did say that they were, in fact, married at one point, and then is going on and on about the dating scene. So I'm starting to think that the marriage just isn't fucking real. But let's read this post, shall we? My 25-year-old nephew was dating a young lady around his age, and after 3 months she decided she wasn't really into him and just wanted to be friends. That is her right, no foul here. Spelled that wrong. However, when my nephew told her that he didn't think it would be healthy for him to remain friends with someone with whom he wanted more than a friendship, she put a major guilt trip on him and had the nerve to say that he was being selfish. You heard that right. I didn't hear anything. You wrote that. Keeping him around to listen to her bitch about this or that or buy her dinner is more important than him mending his broken heart and moving on. Listening to this brought back some old negative experiences I had with this, and I will admit, reopened some old wounds a bit back. I had a couple of experiences just like this, where things became romantic, but then after some time the girl decided she wasn't into me and wanted to be friends only. For some context, I've been married for a while, so when I was dating it was the late 90s, early 2000s. The word friend zone was not a thing yet. Both ladies said something to me like, I just want to be friends. Again, this person said he'd been married for 20 years. And considering the way they're writing, I would assume that means that they got married when they were 6. In one of those instances, I was crushed, and this girl knew that I had some pretty deep feelings for her, and when I told her I did not want to be her friend because I did not want to be around when she did start dating someone else, she manipulated me in order to keep me around as her safety blanket. She knew full well that I was not going to be able to move on, but she didn't care because she was only thinking about herself and how she benefited from things I would do for her. Within a few months, my pain turned into resentment and then hatred, and when I told her I didn't want her in my life, she actually had the nerve to tell me that I was being selfish. The ironic thing is that about a year later, she pleaded for me to get back together with her, but at that point it was too late, as my heart had already been hardened against her. Oh, the drama. The irony is that if she had just let me go and moved on, I might have been open to trying again. The other gal tried to pull this let's be friends move. It's a very different situation. We started seeing each other and made it clear that I was looking for a committed, exclusive boyfriend/girlfriend relationship. After a month of dating, she decided she did not want to be tied down, which was disappointing, but certainly her right. That would have been okay had she not tried to shame me and guilt me when I told her I was not interested in being just her friend. I tried to explain that I have plenty of friends and I don't need another one. She knew full well that I wanted an actual girlfriend. Not spending time with her as a friend would stop me from finding one because she was not ready to let go from me from her life entirely. She just put up a big fuss and said, you guessed it, that I was being selfish. If you break up with someone you are dating, even in a committed relationship, they are under no obligation to remain in your life. Giving them second place prize of your friendship is not doing them any favors, and if you know they either want something more with you or someone else, you are extremely selfish to try and prevent them from either healing or finding what they want with someone else. This whole friend zone thing has got to be the stupidest concept I have ever heard. If you are not into someone who's into you, then just be honest. It might hurt a bit, but at least they'll appreciate that you are at least upfront about where things stand and will allow them to move on. If you tell someone you want to just be friends simply because it makes you feel less bad about breaking up with them or because you want to keep them around at your convenience, then you are just a bad person. There's a lot to cover with this, mainly because we already know that everything else that this person has said, which means that you already know that a lot of this is most likely something they made up. The definition of how the friend zone is explained and why people, especially now, make fun of it is simply because of the very concept of it. The idea that there are people who feel like they are supposed to hang around someone who they are very attracted to and they are basically, as this person put it, given a second place because they really want to be with them. Again, you even had the insight enough to say that you're not under any obligation to be someone's friend. And that's true. So don't. The fact that you hung around these people and they basically manipulated you, which I don't believe they're real, but let's just say for the sake of argument they are, means that you intentionally wanted to stay in that situation. Otherwise, you would have just left. You would have just walked away from that. There are definitely situations where I've had friends who have wanted to essentially move a friendship in a way that I was not comfortable with. Mainly because I was usually with someone at the time, and I would explain that. And if they didn't like that, then we just weren't friends anymore. Or we just stopped talking for a while, until they could basically figure out what's going on with them and make things work. The people that this person is trying to describe and saying that this is what they are doing, and the fact that he had to describe at least 3 of them, these are just manipulative people. That has nothing to do with the concept of the friend zone, this whole unrequited love because you really like this person even though you barely know anything about them and you're claiming that they're putting you there just because it's a need for spite or control or just to make them feel better about themselves. That's not really how that works. See, a lot of times someone says something like, let's just be friends, it's called letting you down easy. This is basically saying that while they think you're a nice person, they don't want to date you. And the fact that this person went on this whole tirade about how horrible it is and how manipulative it is and how just absolutely life-destroying it is means that he's probably been told this at least once, probably more than once. And the idea that they've been married for such an extensive amount of time and yet somehow find the time to post massive shit posts like this all over Reddit, this is fake. This is someone who is basically going out of their way to try and find, as I said before, confirmation bias. They really want people to pat them on the back and be like, I'm sorry you went through all that stuff, buddy, but it's gonna be okay. You're right, girls are bad. Women are so mean. Herpaderpader. Except that that's not how reality works. When you present a claim like this, and it doesn't make any sense, and people start poking holes in these claims, then you start to see how reality shines through. And this does happen. In every single one of these posts, there's at least 1 or 2 people, usually much more, who poke holes in these claims and explain that this is just not the way things work, and that is not how this stuff happens. And this guy gets really, really mad about that. To the point that they specifically go out of their way to hurl insults and say that something is really bad. On very few occasions, the real point of this starts to shine through. On very few occasions, they will end some sort of confrontation with something about, like, that's a good point, what a good debate. Which pretty much says exactly why they're here. They're here to start a fight. That's about it. They're just looking for someone who will help them argue their points, possibly get confirmation bias, and make themselves feel better about themselves. This is an ego trip. But the fact that it has to be specifically centered around these things, very specifically centered about women, their appearance, their behavior, and just females in general, pretty much tells you everything you need to know. This is an angry neckbeard. This is one very angry neckbeard incel dude who very much wants people to agree with him. And they're not going to, because reality doesn't ever agree with people like that. When they try to say that women are the root cause of all the problems on Earth, and then you start pointing out things that are obviously not the fault of one specific gender, their entire argument falls apart. Mainly because that doesn't fucking make any sense. Really, that's just about it. I thought this was kind of weird, pretty funny, pretty cringy, and I thought I'd share it with you guys, which is what I did. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, I have a merch store, and I have a Ko-Fi. Both of these things help out a lot more than YouTube, mainly because YouTube sucks. Whoa, did I just say that out loud? Oh, shit. Anyway, sorry, YouTube does suck. But thank you for being here. I love you all so very, very much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.